Days of Our Lives, DOOL, spoilers show that on Wednesday, September 28th, hospitalized Gwen Rizek, Emily O'Brien, woke up to Xander Cook while Sean Brady, Brandon Beamer, saved the life of Clyde Weston, James Reed, Paul Telfer. Fans of DOOL first saw Jennifer speeding in her car on Wednesday's episode. In the end, a hit-and-run outside the police station left Gwen comatose on the ground. Jack Devereaux, Matthew Ashford, informed Julie Williams, Susan Seaforth Hayes, at the Horton residence that Jennifer was once again taking painkillers. She finally returned home right as Jack was preparing to go looking for Jennifer. Jennifer described how she had a vision of Abigail DiMera, Marcy Miller, and after that she had made the decision to drive to the police station to get information on Clyde. Jennifer, though, claimed she felt lightheaded and returned home. Jennifer felt terrible and fled the room when Jack confronted her about the tablets and tried to get a confession. Rafe Hernandez, Galen Gehring, was shocked to discover Gwen unconscious and bleeding from a head wound outside the Salem PD. When Rafe dialed 911 for the paramedics, they arrived just as Sarah Horton, Lindsay Godfrey, was finishing up her lunch break at the hospital and wheeled Gwen in. When Xander discovered Gwen had been taken to the emergency department, Sarah was by his side. Rafe was limited in his ability to inform Xander, who questioned whether Jack had learned yet. Rafe informed Jack that Gwen was in the ER a short while later. When Jennifer came back into the living room, Jack had already left. Julie was then left to refocus Jennifer's attention on her addiction while providing updates on Gwen's illness. Julie argued that everyone wanted to help Jennifer as she sobbed bitterly and stated she had been ashamed to come clean. Julie appreciated Jennifer's earlier driving and felt fortunate that she didn't harm herself or anybody else after they made the decision to take a nap. Back at the hospital, Sarah updated Xander on the condition of Gwen, telling him that she was stable but had a few broken bones and might have suffered a concussion. Gwen didn't require surgery right away since, fortunately, there was no internal bleeding or injury to critical organs. Rafe wanted to interview Gwen, but Sarah said she'd been given a tranquilizer. Since Jack wasn't yet there and wouldn't want Gwen to be alone, Xander wanted to sit with her. Xander sat by Gwen in her room and declared that she was among the toughest people he knew. Gwen opened her eyes, astonished to find Xander, who had claimed that she would soon return to her former self. Sarah told Gwen that she was at University Hospital as she was dazed and disoriented. Gwen was prepared to respond to Rafe's questions once she was a little more awake and aware. E.J. DiMera, Dan Furigel, believed that it was poetic justice that Clyde was the one who was bleeding out at the graveyard. E.J. and Chad DiMera, Billy Flynn, stooped down together as they both relished the opportunity to witness Clyde's demise. Sean, however, learned that there had reportedly been gunfire at the cemetery where Abigail was interred. The DiMera brothers' plans were ruined when Belle Brady, Martha Madison, insisted on traveling with Sean and arrived just in time to summon for paramedics for Clyde. Belle persuaded E.J. not to say anything because she was his attorney. Chad claimed he didn't need a lawyer and had nothing to hide, contrary to E.J.'s assumption that Belle would also represent Chad. At the police station, Chad summarized what had happened and told Sean that Belle had actually been the intended victim of the crime. As Chad told how E.J. saved him with that bullet, he still had Clyde's strangulation marks on his neck. E.J. was criticized by Sean for endangering Belle, but she believed he couldn't have realized the house was bugged. In addition, Belle essentially coerced E.J. into confessing to Clyde's hit. Belle told E.J. there was no need for that when he expressed his regret to her in private. E.J. also expressed regret to Chad for not alerting him to Clyde's threat to the family, but Chad believed they shouldn't hold grudges as they had both made mistakes. Although E.J. smiled and acknowledged that he mostly simply wanted to shoot Clyde, Chad thanked him for saving him. On Wednesday's episode of Days, Clyde's physicians removed the bullet at the hospital and were optimistic about his prognosis. When Jack arrived, he learned that Gwen was stable and immediately requested to see Clyde. When Jack confronted Clyde in his room after being escorted there by Sean, Clyde denied killing Abigail and said Jack would be better off without her. Sean stopped Jack from beating Clyde after he claimed that little slut had cheated on Ben Weston, Robert Scott Wilson. Jack then went to check on Gwen and was relieved to see she was okay. Gwen was questioned by Rafe about her memories, but she admitted that everything happened so quickly. Jack questioned Gwen about the possibility that the car's lack of swerving could have been intentional. Gwen admitted the possibility and said that the driver's headlights prevented her from seeing them. Jack noticed that this occurred outside the police station and looked frightened as he recalled Jennifer's admission that she had driven there. On Wednesday's episode, Sean made a promise to himself in Clyde's room that he would not stop working until he was back in Statesville and that Clyde would never leave. EJ emphasized that at least Clyde will return to prison when Chad expressed disappointment at learning Clyde would survive. Belle also hoped that knowing the truth would bring Chad comfort. Given that Abigail would want justice, especially for the kids, Chad felt a certain amount of satisfaction. Keep watching Days of Our Lives for Chad's upcoming chapter because spoilers indicate that he will soon try to move on with his life. Make CDL your one-stop source for thrilling Days of Our Lives spoilers, news, and updates.